Hi there, College Trig. We have some other types of formulas in 7.3. We have double angle formulas. We have half angle formulas. And then we're going to have something called power reducing formulas. And those are pieces we're ready to look at just to let you know where we are on our chart as we consider this grouping back here. If you're using this to organize formulas at all, right now we're going to be looking at this guy right here. Double angle formulas. And then later on we'll move to half angle and power reducing, and then sum to product. That'll take care of a lot of our formulas. So, you know, this part here, the question is if you have sine of twice an angle, what is that equal to? And sine of twice an angle is equal to 2 times the sine of the single angle times the cosine of that single angle. Cosine, you're going to have a little bit different situation. If you have cosine of twice an angle, you actually have 3 different formulas that you could choose from. You have cosine squared of an angle minus sine squared of an angle. Or you could choose to use instead 2 cosine squared of an angle minus 1, or you could choose to use 1 minus 2 sine squared of an angle. So those are the 3 options. I always choose that option, okay? And then tangent of twice an angle is in fact equal to 2 tangent of an angle divided by 1 minus tangent squared of an angle. There's another one that I like to use. I just use sine of twice an angle, which is this guy over here, divided by cosine of twice an angle, which is this guy over here. So just take your 2 results and divide them. So this will bring up a blast from the past. We just have kind of one example to do, and then I'm just going to do another short piece. But it says given cosecant is equal to 2, and x is in the second quadrant, find sine of 2x, cosine of 2x, and tangent of 2x. And so I'm going to write down sine of 2x, write down cosine of 2x, and I'm going to write down tangent of 2x. Okay. Note that it says cosecant is equal to 2. That means that sine of x is equal to 1/2. So the formula that I'm going to start with is my sine of 2x. I know that sine of 2x is 2 times the sine of x times the cosine of x. And notice what I've uncovered so far from my given information. That sine of x is 1/2. So therefore you have 2 times 1/2 times the cosine of x. So in order to finish this off, all I need is the cosine value. Well, if we know that cosine is 1/2, how can we, or if we know sine is 1/2, how can we find cosine? You know that sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x is equal to 1. Sine squared will be 1/4 plus cosine squared is equal to 4/4. Or cosine squared of x is equal to 3/4. As we square root that, we get cosine of x is equal to plus or minus the root of 3 divided by 2. It tells us that x is in the second quadrant, meaning our angle is in the second quadrant. That means that cosine, all students take calculus, cosine is in fact negative. So I have 2 times 1/2 times negative root of 3 over 2. 2 times 1/2 will give you 1 times negative root of 3 over 2 is negative root of 3 over 2. And that's what the sine of 2x is equal to. That looks like a lot of work, but once you can do that, the rest are pretty straightforward. Cosine of 2x is, I always like to choose this bottom formula, 1 minus 2 sine squared of x. Well, 1 minus 2 times what is sine of x? We know from over here that sine of x is 1/2. What do you get if you square a half? You get a fourth. So 1 minus 2 times a fourth. 2 times a fourth is a half. And 1 minus a half is 1/2. That's the cosine of 2x. Tangent of 2x, you simply take sine of 2x and divide it by cosine of 2x. Sine of 2x is negative root of 3 over 2. And cosine of 2x is 1 over 2. I will multiply by the reciprocal, negative root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. And I get the negative root of 3. Now, for some people, they are frustrated because they're looking at the positives and negatives. So I just want to clarify something. It says x is in the second quadrant. That doesn't mean that 2x is in the second quadrant. 2x might be, so if you double x, it might end up being in the fourth quadrant. So that means that some of your sine and cosine values will change. For example, people said, well, you're in the second quadrant, then cosine is negative, yet you came out with cosine being a positive 1/2. Well, in the fourth quadrant, cosine is positive. So x is in the second quadrant. 2x is not in the second quadrant. So that changes that, okay? So there's a nice little introduction for you to that piece. I'm just going to show you one more thing. Suppose that you had something like, say, 1 minus, let's say you had 2 cosine squared of, we'll say 15, okay, minus 1. And you wanted to simplify that into something better. Just note that this is the same as 2 cosine squared of an angle minus 1. And we learned that that is the same as cosine of a double angle. So what is the angle that you're working with in this situation? It is 15. So you end up with cosine of 2 times 15, which is a cosine of 30, which you know is the root of 3 over 2. So you can use formulas to be able to come up with similar exact values, kind of like we did the other day. This is not an easy lesson for people, and so we will take some time to glance at it in class as well. Reach out if you need help. Have a great